Now, back to Terence McKenna in beautiful Hawaii, beautiful Paradise, Hawaii. It really is a paradise. I don't know how many of you have ever had the opportunity to get away from the main island and go to, for example, Maui. I've spent a lot of time there, and it really is like living in paradise. And I don't know how anybody could leave there and go anyplace else, though I did that. All right, Terence, here we go. A lot of people want to talk to you west of the Rockies. You're on the air with Terence McKenna. Oh, you're up in Seattle, aren't you?
Right. It's Carl up in Seattle.
Carl, what happened up there?
Well, I just heard on Como because I was, thank God they have redial buttons on these phones.
Yeah.
But anyway, while I was busy redialing, I was listening to it, and they said we had a power surge about an hour or so ago.
That'd be about right.
And I wasn't looking out the window, but they just mentioned it because there was a peak, and I heard it click, and I noticed the lights flickered. I'm just lying in my apartment with the lights out here, listening to you on the radio, but I noticed there was a little flicker in the lights.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of, it's very interesting that this should occur on a day when they said that there would be some sort of possible beginning Y2K effect. It really is.
Precursor.
Yeah, precursor. There you go. That's good. That's Ed's word, precursor.
Well,
anyway.
Okay, Art, I've got to tell you, one thing I like about you is you've got an old-time radio voice. You speak in fonts. And I really enjoy that. And I have a question for Terence.
Yes.
Terence, can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. Talk to me about Salvia divinorum. I'm growing some this year. I've been growing it for the last 3 years, but the last time I tried that stuff, it scared the hell out of me. I thought that Jay Leno was talking about me on TV, and I thought it was like Philip K. Dick novel where they were sending out telepathic police.
And your question is?
What's been your experience with it, and what is it trying to tell you? Because it doesn't seem to be a very friendly teacher.
Well, it's certainly different chemically and in terms of its effect, but I've found it very interesting. I know most people seem to be smoking it. I did most of my experiments with it a few years ago. I enjoyed chewing it. I laid down in silent darkness, and it swept me away to a very interesting sort of colored, flexing, three-dimensional kind of place.
I've enjoyed the link to Daniel Siebert's page from your homepage, and I must say your homepage is very professional.
Oh, well, thank you. It's going to all change soon. I designed that one. My son is going to take over the design process, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. The new one is going to have a lot more links, so check it out.
I got to say also that you guys are talking about, I think the history of drug enforcement in this country is just sort of like a series of unhappy accidents. But they used to say that Social Security was the third rail of American politics, and now it's drugs. I don't think we can do anything about it. And what really gets me is they start talking about kids using solvents. Well, I think there's a natural urge to go out there and break down those boundaries because language encodes stuff for you. And I think one of the reasons people take psychedelics is because it breaks down the barriers and you get to see stuff real again.
Well, in shamanic societies, they take the young kids out and the men give the young boys psychedelics and the women initiate the young girls. And instead of the taking of a substance being a symbol of the rejection of social values, it becomes the doorway to the full acceptance of social values. So,
well, my answer to the drug problem was grow your own. I think they should just make everybody pay a marijuana stamp tax, and we can just all grow our own, and that would cut the black market right out of it.
Well,
that's
if
right.
the profit were removed by any means, either by legalization, grow your own, or what have you, the drug problem would shrink to a whole new dimension.
Here's an interesting bit of email. Ken from Bloomington, Indiana says, hey, Art, when I was in the Army, we used to say killing for peace is like whoring for virginity. That's how I react to it. I love it.
Well, remember the logic in 1984? War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength.
That's exactly right. First time caller line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Hello.
Hello, is this me?
That's you.
Hey, this is Michael calling from Oregon, long-time listener.
Hi, Michael.
I just want to say first, Art Bell, I think you're a god. I love
No,
your
I'm
video show.
not a god. I'm not a god.
Well, I mean, personal opinion. And my question for Terence is, Do you think that with the way that technology and people's self-knowledge is progressing, that we're going to reach a point in time where all of our mental boundaries will be broken and we'll just be free of thought?
I think we're going to see all kinds of group mind activities and complicated games that will slowly teach us how to operate as group minds the way flocks of birds and schools of fish do. I've been recently spending more time in the virtual and interactive worlds online, the worlds where you dress up as an avatar and meet other people in designed worlds. And if you haven't checked in on that lately, it's gotten a lot better, and you can see the potential for people creating worlds and then sharing them with other people online, so that really we're peeling open our heads and letting it all hang out, and it's going to have a real impact on community and the human self-image and the way we think about the individual and the community.
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
All right, callers, thank you. Terence, by email, can you shed some light on why some people have such apparent creative enlightenment? Terence, did you get the question before we blipped out?
Yes, the question was, why are the psychedelics so beneficial to some people and so shattering to other people?
That's correct, yes.
And the simple answer is there's a lot to be said for going back and looking at the concept that Leary and his colleagues put forth in the 60s of set and setting. Setting is, you take these things, you don't do it in a noisy nightclub, you do it in a place that's secure, comfortable, familiar, and then the set, your mindset, you do it calmly, you aren't hysterical, you aren't emotionally wrought up, you aren't drunk, and if people will follow these simple rules, which are basically rules of reasonable behavior and respect for the substance, most people do fine.
So your answer is the people that have gone the wrong way have had the wrong attitude. That's kind of what it boils down to, right?
Been in with the wrong people in the wrong places at the wrong time. That doesn't cover 100% of all unpleasant experiences. I mean, some people are on prescription drugs that tangle with these things unpleasantly.
Sure.
And some people, if psychedelics dissolve boundaries, there's probably 2 or 3% of the population that is involved in trying to maintain boundaries, and those people should stay away from psychedelics. They have a different agenda.
All right, let's grab one before the top of the hour. East of the Rockies, you're on there with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Good morning to you.
Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to first off make a statement about the Y2K bug.
Sure.
I have a very good friend who, back in the 80s, he claims that he actually helped code it.
Code the Y2K bug?
Yes.
Well, that might just mean he was a programmer doing what they all did.
It's going to be bad, according to him.
Yes, you're trying to suggest that he was part of some sort of conspiratorial effort to make sure the Y2K bug hit hard?
No, it's not conspiratorial as far as I know. But from what he tells me is that it is out there and that he did help write the code for it.
Well, a lot of people did that. All right. Anything else, sir?
Yes. First, I'd like to, my first question is about the element that you mentioned earlier, element 92.
Yes.
Where would I find more information about that?
At your local library. They'll even teach you how to arrange it so that you can cause a massive explosion with that element. You just have to do a little reading.
All right.
All right.
And my last question would be for Terence. What is the drug that he's used that has given him the most powerful experience?
That's a good question. Terence?
Well, powerful, I don't know. In terms of life-changing, I mean, certainly psilocybin at one point changed my life, LSD at another point, DMT all along the way. It seems to be this small family of tryptamines, and then, of course, LSD isn't a tryptamine, but at high doses, and these faith, but high doses. All of these things have had life-changing impact on me and the people that I'm aware of.
Every time I have you on there, I have to quickly ask this question: where, Terence, are Timothy's 25,000 hits? Where are they buried?
Well, didn't I tell you last time?
Do you have a little map with an X on it or something?
Somewhere out there in the deserts east of Tonopah. South of Truth or Consequences. Hi, Art. You want to see? Maybe we should pack it in. What do you think?
Hold on a sec. Tell you what, the next time it occurs, we'll pack it in.
Okay, I'm game.
You know, this time the power didn't fail. You just went away. I don't know.
On this end, it sounded just like all the others.
Now we appear to have not such a hot phone connection either. Do you hear that?
It's the same for me. You want to call back and try again?
Let's bear with it for a few minutes and see how it does. Boy, Y2K, here we go.
Yeah, if this is general, I mean, it's 2:30 in the morning where you are. The load on the system is very low. It shouldn't be happening now.
That's exactly right. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna, I hope.
Good morning.
Good morning. Where are you?
This is Mike from Cleveland.
Yes, sir.
I just called to tell you that this morning, around 3 o'clock at our time, we had a couple of flashes, and about 5, our power went out. And they gave us this, I don't know, it sounds kind of screwy to me. They were saying because we had a light rain shower and hadn't used, or there was salt, and the salt had caused some 50 telephone poles to catch on, electric poles to catch on fire. And there were about 65,000 people out of power.
65,000 for 2 hours?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Or longer than that in some cases.
Well, this is beginning to seem to be a pattern to me.
That's what I was thinking. That's why I wanted to get on the phone and call you.
Well, welcome to the new millennium.
Yeah,
early.
Great looks.
Yeah, appreciate the call, sir. Thank you. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Hi.
Hey, guys. This is Eric from Los Angeles.
Yes, sir.
I really like your show, Art.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for everything. I was just wondering, are you guys going to go see the new movie Matrix? The premise of the movie is a combined nanotechnology, biological hallucination that everyone has more control over their illusion. Should be interesting. But my question is for Terence. Terence, through all your interdimensional traveling, do you have any concept of what the afterlife for you would be?
No, we've discussed this here in the last 24 hours, and I was shown to be inadequate. I have noticed in virtual reality that sometimes the landscape builds out ahead of you if you have good processors and you can actually watch the landscape springing into existence.
Yeah.
I can sort of imagine the end of life is like that process in reverse. You know, just more and more is subtracted, and my ketamine experiences have convinced me that a consciousness without a body is an entertainable idea.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness without a body is simply like the volume of your mind turned up until it's all there is.
Yeah.
And then I can imagine just unfolding into thought without a spatial locus. But does that go on forever? That's a little hard to feature. Of course, nothing that we know of goes on forever. So to imagine that when you find out what lies beyond death, you found out what eternity is, may be...
Maybe that's why we come back.
Death.
Maybe that's why we maybe reincarnate. Do you believe in reincarnation?
Well, if reincarnation occurs, it's a way of getting away from this paradox of eternally existing as a conscious form in some other dimension.
Yeah. One more question: Has the other side ever communicated to you through lights, or have you ever seen the all-seeing eye, like from the Egyptian times?
I've I think that these entities communicate with sound and light, and sound which you can see, and they seem to have some kind of a language which is like, has more dimensions than acoustical language. It's not telepathy, but it's something that is sculptural. You experience it as a visual medium.
A mosaic.
And it's high bandwidth, yes.
It's incredible.
We could be on the brink of engineering something like that as a human mode of communication if we could unleash psychopharmacology and really understand what's going on.
It's really, we live really in incredible times. Do you think all these prophecies and all these things set in place from the past are ways for us to actually be moving into this new dimension, this new paradigm?
Well, we're at the end of a 1,000-year period, and we're at the climax of the agenda of modern science, and we're moving off the planet, and we're going digital. There are so many transformative tendencies in play that I think you would have to really be resisting the tide to not see that we're ready to make some kind of leap.
It's incredible. I mean, I really see that this paradigm of thought is overtaking the old paradigm, and the old paradigm needs to firmly hold control. And and I just think we just keep what we're doing, keep doing like with our show. Everything's going to be all right.
Everything's going to be all right.
And that's not through rose-colored glasses either, Art.
All right. I appreciate the call, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Take care. Here's one by email. Somebody wants to know, and I really am not sure myself, wants to ask you your opinion on Tim Leary's work with prisoners and the reasons his findings were suppressed. What do you know about that?
I don't know a whole lot about that. I assume this refers to Vacaville. What I know is that there was a whole wing of Vacaville in the 60s that was basically a CIA laboratory for experimenting on controlling and programming people with drugs. What Tim Leary had to do with it, I'm not a historian of his life. I couldn't say. I do think that Sirhan Sirhan passed through that facility. So did Charlie Manson. So did General Sin Q, the character who led the Symbionese Liberation Army. Remember them?
Oh, yes.
And so there was, it's well documented that there was CIA interest in all these things. Recently, you probably noticed Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who ran that MK Ultra program, he died recently.
I heard that, yes.
Yeah, he took a lot of secrets with him, I'm sure.
What would you imagine would occur to somebody given LSD, unsuspecting, totally unsuspecting, given LSD? What would?
Well, it depends on, again, the circumstances. If you were out in public, I think most people would leap to the conclusion first that they had been poisoned, and then a few minutes later that they were losing their mind. And I think it's one of the most fundamental violations of a person's dignity to give them a drug without discussing it with them and them being fully consensual.
Boy, do I agree. There is no more fundamental invasion of privacy than such.
William Burroughs once said there was only one commandment, and it was, "Thou shalt not blow pot smoke in thy pet's face."
I'm going to remember that one, Terence. Thanks. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Art Bell and Terence Mckenna in Hawaii. Hello.
Hello to you.
Yes, sir. Where are you?
I am in Silicon Valley. Just here doing the computer thing.
Yes, sir.
What I'd like to ask is, a few of us are going to take a trip down to Mexico, and we're going to be doing the Mayan thing down there. And I was wondering if I can get any direction on which way to go. Simple as that.
Which way to go?
Well, the Mayan ruin of Palenque in the state of Chiapas overlaps mushroom territory. It's a little late, but there still may be mushrooms there this time of year. That's a beautiful ruin. Uxmal in the Yucatan is a beautiful ruin. If you get down to Belize, Xanantanich out in the west end of the country, those are my favorite ones, and Tikal in Guatemala. But Palenque in Chiapas is the gem of the Mayan archaeological site.
That's way down south. Can you go that far down south, caller?
Yeah. Well, we just got back from the Andes, and that's all we do is hike in the mountains.
Yeah, well, the Sierra Mazateca behind Palenque is some of the most rugged country in Mexico with some of the world's deepest caves. But, of course, there's political problems back in there. The Mexican army is leaning on the Indians pretty heavily, so you want to know your turf.
Did you find any problems down there when you were there in January?
Not at the ruin, but in the mountains, which begin immediately behind the ruin, all bets are off.
Huh, I gotcha. I just want to also thank you very much for the electronic music culture that's going on, for the work that you've done, and the spoken word that you've done with them. I want to thank you very much for that.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, you are definitely in our consciousness around here in the Silicon Valley, and thank you. And thank you for the Santa Cruz visit also.
Thanks for calling.
Okay, right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna and Art Bell.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
I'm a first-time caller.
Where are you?
I'm in California.
Okay.
Los Angeles, and I'm calling on I'm listening to KABC.
The mighty flagship station. Yes, sir.
Yes,
in L.A.
790. The reason I was calling was one reason was my brother did slip me some acid when I was 11 years old, and have that experience I can share.
Oh my God.
4-way window pane, and I was never a heavy drug user during my life, but that was a real radical experience. Other than that, nobody seems to want to talk about how much resources they recently found in Kosovo. Someone called me today, because I know a lot of people in the government as well as private, and I'm in international business. They found trillions of dollars worth of resources in Kosovo.
Well, that may well be. What happened to you on this uninvited acid trip?
Well, what happened was my brother was into some sort of satanic rituals with his buddies, and they thought it'd be a great joke to go ahead and slip me 4-way window pane.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting really violently ill initially because I didn't know what was going on. I was spinning. I laid down in a waterbed, and the vacuum started running on itself, and it started vacuuming the room methodically, you know. So I realized I knew at that point that obviously my brother and his friends had obviously done something to me, you know. What they had done, I don't know. They didn't tell me at that time. Then I started changing colors, okay, like blue, green. Then I started going into what they would say kind of like a bad trip, but I was still basically barely able to keep sense of reality, you could say, you know, because that's a pretty serious dose at that kind of age.
It's a terribly serious dose.
Yeah.
And I guess in youth, thank you, you would handle such thing better. But I would imagine, Terence, not only would somebody who had that done to them feel like they were losing their mind, but probably could actually slip out of reality and stay out of reality under such conditions. That would be one possibility, wouldn't it?
Well, the fear thing starts a cascade, and then people do desperate or foolish things, and no, it's a really dumb thing. Well, this caller comes from a typical dysfunctional American family, satanic rituals, siblings dosing others with LSD. This is why we need drug education.
Terence, welcome back.
Good to be back.
You are there. Good.
I am.
All right. Here we go, hopefully. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna and Art Bell on a weird night, but fun. Hello.
Hi. This is Frank from Cotati, California. It's Sonoma County.
Hi, Frank.
And I read in Timothy Leary's autobiography, Flashbacks, about some experiments they had done at some prisons back east, I think when he was still at Harvard, using psilocybin to rehabilitate inmates. And the thing about it was they had a far lower recidivism rate, and that just basically got covered up and ignored, and then they got bounced out of Harvard, so it's kind of disappeared. But I thought that was one thing that was pretty interesting. And I want to put in a plug for a book by Dale Pendell. The name of it is Pharmacopoeia, and it's an excellent explication of all the varieties of mind-altering substances. I think it might be an interesting guess for you.
Is that something you're familiar with, Terence?
Yes, Pharmacopoeia, Dale Pendell. He's an interesting character, and he can spin a line of rap. He would be an interesting guest. That's an excellent book.
All right. Well, Terence, maybe you ought to just sort of construct a list of interesting guests and how to get hold of them and email it to me or something.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
I would love that because it sounds like you've got a lot of very interesting suggestions. Now, here's an email from Boulder City, right outside of Las Vegas, and he says, I live just outside of Boulder City, and I'm looking across Boulder City right now, and all the lights are out. Now, that's where Boulder Dam is. So that's kind of interesting, too. Wild Card Line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Hi.
Great, I made it. This is John in Las Vegas, 105.1
Hi, John.
Talk FM.
How you doing?
Hi. I talked to you guys last year on March 19th. I called and related the experience about the dream and the geometry book. And I wrote a short story about it called Times Square. I sent it out on March 13th, Saturday. Sent you a copy, Art.
Yes, sir.
Did you get it?
I got it.
Oh, okay. All right. Terence, if you would care to receive a copy, I'd love to send you one. If you
yeah, go to my website at levity.com, and my email button is right there on the Terence McKenna page.
Well, I'm not really wired, or I don't have a computer.
Go to a library.
Right, but this involves 11 pages with color scans and stuff. I don't know if I can send that out that way.
Well, actually, if you go to that website, my P.O. box is
great.
there, too.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I'm not computer literate.
All right. Well, listen, I'll tell you what. We'll even do you another favor. Why don't you give out your P.O. box, Terence?
Sure. It's P.O.B. 677, and the name of the town is Honau, Hawaii 96726. So that's Honau, Honau, Hawaii 96726, and I'm P.O.B. 677.
Post Office Box 677. Spell that town one more time. Honau. Nau. That's a weird name. And you pronounce that?
Honau.
It must have taken a while after you moved there to get that down.
Oh, well.
Or did you name the town? I mean, is it...
No, it's a lifetime struggle for the poor Howley to be able to pronounce Hawaiian even closely to correct.
Yes. East of the Rockies, you're on there with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Morning.
Good morning, Terence, and good morning, Art.
Yes, sir.
I went through Vacaville and another state mental institution in California. They have used those mental institutions not only for programming, but to destroy any political prisoner that they deem a threat to quote-unquote society.
And then when were you in Vacaville?
I was in from 91 until 94.
So that was well after all these things that were charged about the 60s. But I'm sure, all this work goes on. I mean, as Art said, these black budget agencies wouldn't be fulfilling the taxpayers' mandate if they weren't pursuing all these horrifying technologies and possibilities. This is always the argument.
Yes, they continually do their little tricks and tricks of the trade. I was very aware of it due to some connections that I had prior to going in, and that's one of the reasons that I was in. And they, in fact, held me 6.5 years illegally without due process of law.
Silence?
Are you there?
Well, I'm just wondering how much of this goes on that we don't hear about, you know. I mean, we have a tendency, you and I mentioned it earlier, to expose the sins of 25 years ago, but what's going on tonight?
You know what, Terence, I wish that I believed that we had had some great transformation, that we are now this moral, ethical government that we thought we had years ago and now have found out, of course, we didn't have. But I don't think anything's changed. I think the players have changed, and I think 25 or 30 years or 50 years from now, we'll find out all the crap we're doing now.
I'm sure that's true. I mean, I think it's a very cynical game. Anybody who thinks we emerged into the light with Watergate or something like that just has bought a very obvious establishment line.
Here. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Is that me?
That's you?
Oh, hi.
Hi, where are you?
I'm in beautiful Vancouver, BC.
Vancouver, all right.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe I'm on here. Gee, well, it's really a treat to hear you're on the air again there, Terence. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to ask you is about specifically DMT, and I've read most of your books, and they're amazing. The connection, the possible connection, has there been any more, have you looked into, or has there been any more research into the possible connection of the tryptamines being a connection to what was known as soma, or what we know as soma from writing or the illusion mysteries?
Continues, you know. I mean, there's endless discussion about what was this fantastic hallucinogen that inspired the writing of the Vedas. Let's see, in a recent issue of Eleusis, Jonathan Ott reviews all theories, including my own, and finds mine inadequate and everybody else's as well. I think it's pretty clear it was psilocybin. Some people want to say it was Amanita muscaria, but Amanita muscaria is an unreliable and sometimes dangerous intoxicant. If it was neither a psilocybin mushroom nor Amanita muscaria, then the candidates are not very promising. So this is an area that needs to be looked at. It was all regarded as settled and that Watson had figured it out, but now we know that there was a lot of evidence that's come to light since he did his work that pushes the argument in new directions. I talk about this in Food of the Gods. There are 2 chapters related to soma.
Yeah, I was asking if there was anything new has come to light since then, or it was.
Well, Giorgio Samarini, who studies Iboga cults in Gabon, told me that in the inner mysteries of these Iboga cults there is mushroom symbolism and the use of the colors red and white. So that's evidence of a possible mushroom cult connected with hallucinogenic substances in Africa. That was a previously missing piece of the puzzle. But no, I wouldn't say this argument has advanced dramatically. I think until Algeria is politically stable enough to permit archaeology in the southern Sahara, the early human use of hallucinogens in Africa and the Middle East is going to remain unclear.
I see. Oh.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the call, sir. Let's see. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Good morning.
Hi, my name's Michael, and I'm in California.
Hi, Michael.
Terence, 30 years ago this month, I was sitting in a coffee shack in below Honau now, making a wine club, getting ready to go to my draft physical.
Well, so you know Honan now.
Oh, I do well.
Yeah, well, it hasn't changed that much. It's a well-kept secret. With a spelling like that, we figure we're off the map.
I love Captain Cook, the whole area. Something additional to the DMT lore, I was thought of the Sleeping Beauty that kissed the frog and turned him into a prince.
Right.
Well, you know the Toad DMT source, right?
Well, yeah, this is something we haven't mentioned maybe on the air.
I thought maybe you shouldn't. There's not too many toads left.
Well, we don't want to deplete the toads, but there are near relatives of DMT in some toads. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah. Well, we thought of the turning the woman into, or the frog into the prince. Might have something to do with that.
That's right.
Okay, good evening, guys.
Thank you. East of the Rockies, you're on there with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Good morning. Where are you?
I'm in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yep.
Now, here's an example of a bad portable phone.
Yep. Some of us don't have a lot of money to buy.
All right, yell into your bad phone and ask your question.
Some of us don't have a lot of money to buy good.
I hear that.
Anyway, I've been growing psychoactive fungus and plants for a number of years now, and I've recently been trying to find plants which contain DMT, and I used the plant mimosa, and I grew that, and it contained the substance, but not in high enough quantities, and I was wondering if Terence could recommend any obtainable plant sources for the source of DMT.
Okay.
Well, Psychotria viridis is the preferred source of DMT in the Amazon. I know it's hard to get and hard to grow. The Mimosa hostiles and the Mexican conspecific species, the name of which escapes me because it's so late at night, those two in the root bark are pretty competitive. There's also Anodonanthra peregrina variety Sibyl. The seeds of that also contain a fair concentration, in fact, a high concentration. Acacia confusa is an eastern, meaning an oriental acacia that has a lot of DMT in it. But Psychotria viridis, if you can get it.
All right. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna in the waning moments.
Hi, from Vancouver again.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the Mayans.
Sir, you were on earlier?
No, in relation to that subject.
Yes.
And the coming about of the 2013. Do you see, Terence, the realization of galactic citizenship as a precursor or a result of that time?
All right.
Well, I can fly with that. In other words, technologies seem to be converging toward opening up the Bell non-local quantum realm where presumably all the intelligences of the universe are communicating in some kind of standing waveform. So I don't know how it is that it's keyed to this conjunction with the galactic center, but I do think that we will fulfill the dreams of the ancient Maya, we will fulfill the dreams of the medieval alchemists. We are on a collision course with some kind of revelation of our own place in the cosmos. And exactly how it's all going to hang out, we can't say, but that it is happening is visibly evident all around us.
Do you think that drugs ought to be prescribed at all? And if you do, then should psychedelics be prescribed?
Well, see, we don't have any place in our culture or our medical practice for the concept of self-administered recreational drugs. Our culture sets us up to think drugs are for sick people.
No, I know, but I mean in some greater future that we might sit here and imagine for a moment.
Well, I think we're going to see psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, and in fact that already flourishes in an underground form, sure.
So that you could see it go that direction. In other words, there would be legitimate use, legitimate prescription. You would go to the doctor and you would say, I'm depressed. I'm in a unrecoverable state of depression or something, or I'm whatever. And they would prescribe something that would literally alter your perception.
Well, the cure rate of chronic alcoholism with one trip of LSD in the early 60s was 50%. 50%
Really? Really?
One trip, yes, at the Saskatoon Mental Hospital in Saskatchewan. All this was published.
Now, but where, and why don't we read about it now?
Well, because once LSD was demonized, the idea that it might cure addiction to the drug of choice of the culture just contained too many contradictions for the scientific and medical establishment to want to plow ahead with it, you know.
Terence, we're out of time. As always, listen, thanks on a really rough night for hanging in with me through all the bumps in this road.
It was whitewater training, Art.
We'll do it again, of course, one day. Thank you, Terence.
All right, good night.
Good night.